Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I am your host, as always. Portal. Joining me is glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, we are coming off of a wild weekend. It started with TNA Under Siege on Friday. There was the Border Brawl show on Sunday. Uh, Saturday's night main events, TNA's TV tapings. We had the latest AEW show. Neither of us can remember the actual title. I don't. So let me just say this: when it comes to that, I don't have any real issues with AEW. I'm not a big fan. I do tune in and I support them to an extent, but their pay-per-view names suck. Like I All In is great. All Out is
Yeah,
fine.
double or
Oh, that's
double or
what it was.
nothing.
It was
Favorite.
double or no. Yeah, that's what it was. It's double or nothing, wasn't it? It's just so
Mm-hmm.
just ugh. I'm gonna say. Busy weekend. Plus, we also had NXT's show, which we'll be obviously talking about because if you're tuning in to the show, see Trick Williams with the TNA World Title, breaking the hearts of millions everywhere. Um, we can't not talk first and foremost about Trick Williams winning the TNA World Title. I say this with all due reverence for the potential Trick has as a wrestler. This is the and I say this knowing full well what I've said about Steve Macklin not 2 years ago when he won it. I think I said that he was the least accomplished, least over wrestler to ever hold the TNA World Title, and the only person who would have topped him at the time was Kushida. And I feel like Trick Williams has now surpassed that because, with all due respect to Trick Williams, he's a developmental roster guy. He is in the upper mid card to mid card of his own show, and he is now holding a title that even he mentioned was around the waists of Sting, Samoa Joe, Kurt Angle, Foley. Oh, you had Jeff Jarrett, Raven. Now, technically, they held the NWA World title. They were still the world champion of TNA. EC3, Drew McIntyre. The list goes on. Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Austin Aries. The best of the best of the best of the best usually hold this belt. And even if the best of the best of the best of the best don't hold the belt, name value, guys with huge names hold this belt. And while Trick could get there eventually, I don't think he is there. I don't think he's a big draw. I think his current crop of main eventers in NXT is like the antithesis of what we're seeing in AEW. You got Will Ospreay, Swerve. You got Hangman Adam Page. Those dudes are bangers out the door. Bam, bam, bam. You look at NXT. You got Trick Williams. You got Ethan Page. Uh, who even is the world champion right now? Oh, Obafemi. Obafemi's tight. I like
Yeah.
Obafemi. He's got a lot of potential. But that's all that is potentially. Who else we got down there? We got Ricky Starks, Ricky Saints. He just lost his belt after like 3 weeks or whatever it was. That was terrible. It looks like that experiment's already. You got Danny Dimes or Tony DeVito or Tony Soprano
Yeah,
or
yeah,
I don't fucking like.
Tony, Tony D'Angelo, yeah.
This company's ran by old white dudes, and as an Italian sitting here, even I think, man, you guys really just are fucking racist. Like you can't even name Italian dudes with great. Like we had names like Maximus, Julius. We got Tony. Hey Tony, I got a cousin Tony. Obviously, I have a cousin Tony.
Yo, Nunzio, come here, Nunzio.
Right? Like it's the gabagool. I feel like I'm watching Michael Scott book Italian wrestlers. It's not great, man. It's not great. So this is the weakest the NXT headline roster has ever been. That's not to say that the talent isn't good. I like Sol Roca. I think her finisher is stupid. It's impressive to watch. Don't get me wrong; she's a hell of an athlete. But also, you're doing an inverted, flip. You're going inside out onto your ass every night. It's a great way to displace a hip and fuck up your spine. But hey, you do you, girl. But this is one of the weakest, least impressive NXT rosters I've ever seen, and it's why the WWE is using so many TNA talents. because they know they don't have the headliners. It's why they're putting so many guys on the NXT roster from the main roster. Didn't AJ Styles pop up in NXT last year? Who else has shown up recently? I think Seth Rollins pop up on NXT? In the last year.
Um, a lot of no, they had Orton pop up on NXT to fight
Orton,
Devon Evans. Yeah, they had Bailey go back down there. Things like that. So, and then obviously, they bolstered it with Julia and Vaquer and Jordan.
and they've already yanked two of those up.
Yeah, and it looks like they're about to get Jordan. Yeah. So Julia went to SmackDown. Roxanne went to Raw. It looks like they're gonna be sending Jordan to Raw and Stephanie to SmackDown.
And what's going to be hilarious is they're going to just get lost in the shuffle. And the Juggernaut's going to be just another member of the roster because that's what the WWE does. So when it comes to Trick Williams winning the title, there's no good. There's no upside to this whatsoever. Like there just isn't. I know there are like a lot of people who just like to see the change because they're like, well, with this, it now adds something more to the partnership. Fuck the partnership. It's not been good. It may have. It may have. I don't know if it's been successful or not in terms of a financial endeavor. I'm sure TNA is making money for it because they keep doing it and they keep not re-signing talent that should be re-signed. John Gresham, Hammerstone, Ace Austin. But what I can say is that the quality of the product has fallen off drastically because you're every Thursday night you're putting half the roster up there for your television show who are not great wrestlers who haven't been doing this for a long time, who have a look but no substance, or have substance but no look, and the product has taken a step back. I can't be the only who thinks that. Now, there's a lot of people that I notice that I talk to that I follow on social media who don't seem to mind, but I feel like they're TNA apologists at times. And I've never been that guy. When my favorite promotion, TNA, is ass, I point it out. And I think they're ass right now. They're hard to watch. I just sat through 10 minutes of Robbie E pretending to wrestle again. I didn't like that shit the first time around. The bro man. And I have to watch it again, but this time against Santino, who can barely move, and his daughter, who can't wrestle at all. And
Looks great. Can't
yeah.
wrestle.
And Alicia Fox, who I love. I love. But she could never wrestle. 10 minutes. You gave 10 minutes that shit. So, like, it's not great, Marcus. I am not having a good time
No,
watching
I mean
TNA.
it's saying a lot because we have been through a tumultuous, to say we've been through a roller coaster ride with TNA would be modest. And this is you saying this is the worst the product's ever been, coming off a time where their product at one point was just them showing shows that they had taped for specials that they never really aired.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about the world title series.
2015 was a bad year. But 2015
Yeah.
had a lot of interesting on the rise talents. EC3 was part of that group. I think EC3 won the world title in 2015. You still had Kurt Angle. You still had the Hardy Boys. Jeff near the peak of his career as far as an athlete goes. Drew McIntyre
Lashley.
was on the come up. Lashley. I think Eli Drake had joined the promotion at the time. So like you had it wasn't great. It was like watching Global Force Wrestling's Amped, right? Like it wasn't great, but there was something there. With TNA right now, you're bogged down by developmental prospects from another promotion. You're cutting your roster left, right, and center. You're losing out on so many names for one reason or another. And you're not replacing them with anyone that has any name value. Now, yes, there are some prospects, not to the way it was 10 years ago, but you do have the Northern Armory, right? You have Casey Navarro. I will say this: the one upside I currently have right now with the roster is the TNA Knockouts division. A lot of this new young talent, Harley Hudson, Myla Grace. They just reintroduced her. I think it's what was it? Um, M by Elegant because it's Maggie Lee, I think. So like we're starting to see a development in the Knockouts division with new talent. If TNA was doing that across the board, they just brought in this guy. I forget his name, but he goes by the Wild Stallion or the Young Stallion, something like that. He's a Canadian talent. He's got a great look. If they were giving guys like him more leeway and more room to run, guys like Leon Slater, I wouldn't be so against it. Like, all right, yeah, sometimes you have to let old expensive talent go. That just sometimes the breaks, especially when you're the third biggest promotion in North America. You don't have the budget that AEW and WWE does. You got to adapt. And that'd be fine because, we would see guys like Leon Slater week in and week out, and he wouldn't be, attached to, when WWE decides to pull him away or how long we get to have him. Because look at almost in Pro Wrestling Noah. He was having a great run. Noah was seeing a boost, not a huge boost, but a nice boost in ticket sales, like maybe a couple more hundred every week. Because they wanted to see this stature, right? They wanted to see someone the size of Omos, and people were coming, and then they just yanked him, just pulled him right on up. That'll happen to TNA. It absolutely will. So it's one of those things where with Trick, it doesn't help the roster because he's in the eyes of a TNA fan, he's a part-time guy. He's not here for a long time. He's here for a good time, and that's fine. But when you look at how this affects the roster's already depleted. A lot of the top talent, a lot of the great prospects, and a lot of the potential headliners are leaving. One reason or another. You lost Ace Austin, and he's a huge loss. And someone's like on social media, like, "Oh, he's not that big of a deal." They were going to put the world title on him twice, apparently, according to Tommy Dreamer, and they didn't. And it's wild for me to hear that, to think that one of the best X Division wrestlers of the last 6 years, one of the best tag team wrestlers of the last 6 years, one of the most popular wrestlers of the last 6 years. Now, I don't, he's not on Joe Hendry's level. I guarantee he's more popular than Steve Macklin. He's gone, just out the door. And
Also had one of the best potential feel good stories with everything that happened with Chris Bay.
right. So now we're stuck in this situation where Trick Williams, 31 years old, former two-time NXT champion, I believe, and is now the TNA World Champion. On paper, that might excite some people. If this was MLW, sure. The TNA World Title is too prestigious for someone of Trick Williams' standing. In the world of wrestling right now, he is a developmental prospect. He might be on the CW. He might get a few 100,000 people to watch his show. But Trick Williams is so inconsequential as far as the draw goes. They had to cancel an NXT television taping in Florida because they weren't selling enough tickets. Yet, and again, I haven't been overly fond of Joe Hendry's run as champion. I thought, TNA allowed him to be used and abused a lot. I've long said, and I continue to say, Joe Hendry's a draw. He might only draw 2,000 to 4,000 people, but I think a lot of why TNA is where it is right now is because of putting Joe Hendry in your ring. And I can't say that Trick Williams can do the same thing, especially when guys like Javion Edwards, I think it was Javion, right? We're going back and
Yeah,
forth with Ricochet. And then we find out that NXT can't draw. And now you put the world title on what I would believe is probably, with the exception of Obafemi, is your top guy, right? Trick Williams is I think, a step below Obafemi. Obafemi's 6'6", 300 pounds, solid muscle. Few people look like him. He also has an aura about him. He's Nigerian, I believe, yes.
yeah.
So he has some of that unique feeling, because like when you find someone from a region of the world who is embraced by his region, who can bring that culture to the zeitgeist and make it somehow more impactful, it makes it more interesting. To this day, I still love Tatanka for that same reason. Like, when you can find someone who can embrace a culture and bring it to the masses in a way that's not been seen before, people latch onto that. Like, that's a great hook because it makes you feel like he's different, but also he's the same because I feel like I see myself in his pride. In his pride for his upbringing and where he's from, I feel the same way about some of my stuff. So like I can relate with that. And it's that's how you get fans. You find ways to relate. Joe Henry's as over as he is because he makes snarky fucking comments. We all like Jim from The Office. We all like snarky fuckers. Joe Henry's, of course, very over. Stone Cold got over because he was drinking beers and beating up his boss. The Rock got over because he was so smooth with every chick he talked to. When you find a way to relate to the audience, you will get over in ways you can't even imagine. Obafemi's over. I don't know if he's going to be the Undertaker during the streak over. I don't know if he's going to be The
Yeah.
Rock in 99 over. I don't know if he's going to be Ahmed Johnson in 97 over. I do know that right now he is over. And I do know that outside of him, it's Trick Williams. And that's not a lot because outside, like that's all you got. The women are new to the scene in the U.S. And I don't think a lot of the NXT WWE audience care about women's wrestlers. Like, I don't think you're gonna get 40,000 people to show up for Evolution 2. They might not even get double. Not double digits. They might not even get 5 digits for attendance. They might be like 6,000 because WWE fans don't really seem to embrace women's wrestling the same way other promotions do. And so when it comes to NXT, I don't feel like they have the headliners necessary anymore. And when that's the case, when you have a roster built around guys who aren't moving the needle, so to speak, it makes their involvement with things outside of their purview, almost a little bit, cumbersome. Because now all of a sudden you have guys who aren't drawing numbers for their own promotion coming in and hindering your promotion. I don't think Trick's that guy. If you did it with Obafemi, I'd be like, okay. Because Obafemi is likely going to win a world title. The only way he
Yeah.
doesn't is if he fucks up. Even if he's not a great wrestler, even if he's not a great draw, they're still going to put it on him eventually. He's got too good of a look. Too good of a
Yeah,
look.
I was going to ask you, because essentially we debated back and forth weeks ago about this potentially being the outcome. But I think one, if not both of us, did kind of see it leaning this way because ultimately, in both relationships, whether it was partnerships, heavy on the quotation mark with AEW and then NXT, both times TNA played the little brother.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a potentiality for this to happen. One, did you see this happening? And two, if you did see this happening, was the acceptable version to the point you just made, a la something like Obafemi, or maybe just leaving the world title completely out and maybe potentially doing it in the X division with somebody like a, I don't know, Javion Evans going around, somebody like a Leon Slater that would have been mildly acceptable for you if this had to happen.
So I did not see it happening. When it comes to the world title, there is no acceptable way for this to happen because once you lose that belt, you lose in essence some of who you are. There would have been if it was the main roster, because I'm not going to sit here and thumb my nose at CM Punk winning the TNA World Title, right? Because when Kenny Omega won it, he was the best wrestler in the world for one of the biggest promotions in the world. Wasn't a fan of it, but it made sense. With NXT, they are the third brand in their own company. You can argue SmackDown, Raw, what have you, but NXT is undoubtedly number three. People leave the roster all the time to go up to the main roster. So anytime you involve an NXT wrestler with a TNA product, what you're saying is TNA is comparable to NXT. Before we were arguing, Rich Swann was on Kenny Omega's level. That's a hell of an argument. That's a hell of a statement. Now we're talking about Joe Henry not being better than Trick Williams. And that's a downgrade. Not because of Trick Williams as an individual, but because Trick Williams is standing on the roster as that of a upper mid carder on a struggling developmental brand. That's there's no way to spin that any other way than that. It's unfortunate because TNA is bigger now than they were in 2000 and what was it 21, 2020 when Omega won the title.
Yeah.
But now they're working with a promotion that refuses to acknowledge them as a serious competitor and as a serious entity in this field. And by basically saying your top guy loses to one of our, and let's if we're ranking these guys, Raw, SmackDown, whoever's on there is already above NXT. So let's say you got 50 people on each, right? You got 50 Raw wrestlers, 50 SmackDown wrestlers. Bam, you're already looking at a roster in the hundreds, and we're not even talking about like like high hundreds, like 101, 102. I think Trick Williams probably like 113th on the roster. If you're not on Raw or SmackDown, you don't get to be in the upper echelon of this conversation by default. You're a developmental wrestler. You're on a developmental payroll. You're on a developmental contract. You're not being seen as a necessary piece because if you were, you'd be on Raw or SmackDown. Now you're talking about like a wrestler who's somewhere between 120 and 150 on the internal roster, and you beat the other promotion's top guy. That looks terrible. That looks fucking terrible. If it was Randy Orton, not great, but Orton, he's got a long legacy of being mediocre in the ring, and he's a name, right? So like, all right, not ideal, but there are worse scenarios. Marcus, this is the worst scenario. The only way this is worse is if it's Tony D'Angelo or Danny Dimes or whatever the fuck their names are. Only way it's worse.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely could have been worse because it could have been Paige.
Yeah.
A
At
couple
least
show, a
Trick is a
couple
decent
shows back.
worker, right? At least Trick's a decent worker. Paige is just
Um,
ugh.
yeah, he's just there. Trick's got a look. He got the interest. He's got swag about himself. Um, kind of hit or miss sometimes on the promo. I don't know why they threw him to the wolves, putting him up against Hendry on like a Hendry does when he does his musicals versus having Trick come out there and rap live for the first time. It was epitome of horrendous. But and I like Trick, like you said. A lot of ups, but not what you said. If things were different, they had names that were not too dissimilar from that. Maybe that last version of the NXT Gold brand when they basically were super indie. I don't know if Trick he may very well be on the NXT roster far lower than he is now, obviously. But he may very well be coming up on Evolve or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, or maybe LFG or something to that effect. And it's crazy because like you said, NXT supposed to be the third brand, but if it was really a third brand, people wouldn't be getting called up or down
Mm-hmm.
off the shelf. Like we seeing Stephanie McKay, Roxanne Perez, Julia Jordan getting called up to the main roster. And didn't we just see fans get called down to Evolve?
Yeah, so a couple guys were sent down to evolve, which is ironic. They
Yeah,
devolved.
yeah, and then that's indeed, yeah, that's great. And then they lateraled her over to TNA, where she did some assery over Tessa Blanchard with some, definitely something that got over. But yeah, it's just like I said before we talked about the show, I could kind of see where they're trying to go with this. Um, the potential of okay, now it's on a hill, and this is another knock on Hendry, and it's potentially unintentional because it's also saying like really our biggest face is Santana in a lot of ways. Even though, like you said, and Hendry is super over, they've been bouncing back and forth between both promotions. Super recognizable theme song, got the classic what WWE audience loves, a good theme song, good something to sing along and dance to. So it's really damn near pitch perfect for their narrative. However, TNA's booking, I'm guessing, and like I said before the show, like, do they not trust themselves to head up for Joe Hendry versus Santana and make it believable? Because if I'm not mistaken, both he and Nemeth were faces at the time when he beat him.
So and
So I don't know what the yeah.
that is such a on point observation, right? Is Hendry still that guy? Are they seeing something? Because like they just released two new kits, right? They had a Hendry kit and a Hardy Boy kit. Shoes, shirts, accessories. You just dropped it, and already you're done. What does that say? That to me is a little shocking. I think, right? And I don't know if they're afraid to do a face versus face because I think you're right. I do think at least Nemeth was kind of a face. Maybe he was showing heel tendencies. I don't know. I can't I can't remember specifically, but he hadn't gone full heel yet because he only went heel against the Hardys.
Yeah.
So are they trying to do that pivot? That was the argument a lot of people made. They're like, hey, we're going to put the belt on Trick, go to Slammiversary, have Santana beat Trick. Okay, I don't like that plan. I don't want NXT talent at all involved in my TNA. It's like, hey, do you like peanut butter with your chocolate? Yes, I do. Cool. Do you like whipped cream with your chocolate? Sure. Do you like sour cream with your chocolate? Not even all. All right, cool. We're gonna give you sour cream with your chocolate. That's how I feel right now. NXT sour cream. It might be cool for some people. I don't want. So the plan seems to be, at least as people have hypothesized, Santana, Trick, Slammiversary. Not a great headlining match. Trick's not that guy. Now it seems like, however, Santana may win it on Tuesday. Because why else would you book this if you're not going to put the belt on Trick? I mean, if you're not going to put the belt on Santana. And if you're not going to put the belt on Santana, why book it? If you are going to put the belt on Santana, why have Trick win the belt in the first place? Not going to pop a rating. It's going to piss fans off. Because Trick Williams will either go down as, one of the worst TNA world champions of all time because he lost it in a week, or you run the risk of alienating your fan base who aren't really all enthused with this WWE partnership. It seems like a stupid ass idea. I don't have hopes for this, and I've watched wrestling enough. I understand promotions enough. I understand bookers well enough. I understand talent well enough to know that I don't need to give this a chance. The Death Riders angle still is boring as shit. Seth Rollins still can't cut a promo that I actually want to listen to. I don't need to give fucking Trick and Santana a chance to win me over. Get the belt off of Trick and let me forget that he ever won the belt, just like I forget Tessa Blanchard ever won. Just like I forget that Eric Young won the
Yeah.
belt twice. I don't know
Yeah.
why this company just persistently always tries to find new ways to piss me off with putting the wrong people in the main event scene, but hey, here we are.
Yeah, I guess I gotta give them a mild tip of the hat, if any, to them looking that match at Battleground in such a way where it's like Trick clearly cheated using the title uh to get Hendry down. So at least they went that far. At least it wasn't like a straight up and down. I know Trick's just better, but like you said, if he's like a champion for a few days and drops it to Santana, it makes him look bad. But I mean, it's not at all too dissimilar from what happened to him with that North American Championship, which was his first title win in NXT. But it doesn't look like they have any direction to put the NXT title back on them. So, of course, no, they should be. They got Over Femi right there. They really don't need um, anybody else. But Over Femi's are kind of in that position now where Jordan was when she was the TNA Knockout Champion, where she's like the top predator with no prey, no proper prey. So, yeah, like I said, I don't know how much longer this will keep going, this partnership, because like you said, it feels like WWE kind of yank out of it at any time or whatnot. And I like Trick, but I like Hendry and Santana more, even though I feel like Santana is going to be around more than Hendry. I could be wrong on that. I would like to be wrong on that. But we've been talking about this. It's come off. This whole thing has come off like a long form job interview for Hendry. Like feels like this whole time. So maybe Santana is ultimately the way to go. I don't know if, to your point about the Tuesday match, if they don't have Hendry run in on that match and it ultimately ends up a three-way. Um, but like I said, there was never gonna be a scenario with him Hendry dropping that title to anybody that wasn't a TNA foundational talent was not gonna rub us the wrong way. So again, um, WWE is absolutely feels like spinning out at this moment. TNA has mastered one step forward, two steps back. And AEW is looking like the black sheep of the family that's not so black, as people want to say. So, considering the fact that they really, even though their shows are still long, the snake way, it feels like sometimes, or most of the time, they did that Owen Hart tournament right. They booked it right all the way through, and now we got potentially Hangman Adam Page, who I'm didn't see myself rooting for, and Mercedes Moné going against Tony Storm, which has the potential to probably be the main event all in Texas, and probably should be, and probably one of the potential best matches for the women this year. So yeah,
AEW's
it's an
cooking.
interesting card, man. Yeah, yeah,
A-
they cooking.
they
Yeah,
are absolutely cooking. I could not agree more. It is a heck of a time, I think, to be a fan of AEW. Not so much TNA. Not great. That being said, there's some guys, maybe there's stuff to look forward to. Maybe you like the Trick Williams stuff if you're at home. I don't. I don't like winning titles in between promotions. I think that's always the wrong way to go. I think personally. But yet, who am I? You know. Let's move on though. Trick's the new champ, but there were some good shows this week. And that's the thing that I think kind of eats at me a little bit because like there were good shows, absolutely good. Under Siege, I thought, considering Joe Hendry was stuck in a tag match, if I remember correctly. Even on the show, yeah, he was in the main event.
yeah, because he was with is that a part of it? No, that was thinking about Matt Hardy and Slater because that was in Canada, correct?
Yes, this was at the Brampton, Ontario, Canada. And he was in the main event against
Yeah,
Kazarian
so the
and
hardest,
Trick.
yeah, because the hardest got their contractual rematch, but obviously, Jeff
Jeff.
can't go to Canada, so our boy Slater filled in his gap.
And briefly, this was a comment I wanted to make before. I think one of the reasons why I had such an issue with Trick winning is because it felt like Trick just always got the one-upsmanship on Joe Hendry, and I think like he's going to end up getting um, essentially over on him all the way. Which again, Joe Hendry's the top guy in your company. Sometimes I think maybe you should be a little bit more Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold about this. That ain't gonna work for me, brother. Because you open yourself up to being made to look like a jackass sometimes. That being said, Under Siege, I liked it. Not the most revolutionary
Yeah,
show ever. Now Cage Match only gave it a 5.48. I agree with that. Let's see.
was there anybody that over delivered for you that was kind of like ho hum on the just from a card perspective?
As far as matches goes,
Yeah,
so I liked the opener with Santana and Navarro. The Eddie and Diener match I thought was real sweet. Again, nothing spectacular. I thought the final two matches were good. The Nemeth versus Matt and Leon, and then Hendry and Elijah versus Trick and Kazarian. None of them I think are match of the year contenders, but it was a solid night of wrestling. I think the match that I think impressed me the most, well, not the best match, but just how low I have of them as as an observation. I think the Elegances defeating Spitfire surprised me the most. It wasn't a great match. Ash by Elegance still ain't great, still pretty bad, but I do think that it was better than I expected it to be. And I don't know what they're gonna do with Danny Luna and Jordy Threat going forward, and I just hope they don't lose them because they can't afford to lose any more talent right now. They don't have anyone waiting
Yeah.
in the rings to replace them. By the way, the wrestler who I was talking about before that I couldn't remember the name, the Wild Stallion or what have you, um, Stallion Kid is named Bryce Hanson. I think he's one to watch, and I hope TNA brings him back full time. As far as the show goes, Rosemary defeated Zaya Brookside by DQ. Zaya Brookside then cut one of the worst promos I've ever heard. I don't know why we're still trying to make Zaya Brookside happen. It's not going to happen. Stop trying to make it happen. Santana defeated Navarro. Navarro looked good. Santana looked good. Eddie defeated Cody Deaner in Deaner's last match in TNA, at least for now. You can never say never in wrestling, and who knows how long he'll be quote unquote gone for. The Northern Armories, Eric Young, Judas Icarus, and Travis Williams defeated the Systems, Moose, Brian Myers, and JDC. This was a fun match, and it really does showcase just how good Judas Icarus and Travis Williams can be. The Elegances defeated Spitfire, and because of that, Spitfire had to break up. Danny Luna and Jody Threat, I think, could be great champions in the division as single stars. So, like, I'm not totally upset about the loss, but also, like, we don't know what the loss is going to mean for them going forward. That being said, though, should they decide to go with that route, I think Danny Luna could be the next Jordan Grace with the right kind of booking. I don't know if Danny's stronger than Jordan, because, like, how would I know that? But there's a part of me that feels like she might be. And if that's the case, that's, even if she's in the conversation, that's impressive.
Real quick, that's the one with the green hair, correct?
Yes, Jody Threat's the thinner one with
Yeah.
the tattoos. And both are
Gotcha.
great. Both are fantastic. Big fan of both. Then we have Order 4, which is just the worst name I've ever heard. Mustafa Ali, Tasha Steeles, and the Great Hands defeating Indy Hartwell, the Rascals, and replacing Ace Austin, Raj Singh. Champagne Singh. One of the most just stupid fucking decisions I've ever seen. Raj's father is a Canadian legend, the Great Gama. Raj is so far the other way on that spectrum, he's almost back around in a circle. And they thought putting him in there was going to be a big get to replace Ace Austin. The Mountie showed up at Border Brawl. 60-year-old, Mountie would have been a better get.
Would you have preferred somebody like Rohit?
No, I would have preferred somebody with a name. You lose Ace Austin. Let's not downgrade. Rohit's 40 years old. Rohit Raju was a solid hand for TNA, but I think people overvalued him. I don't think he had the dynamic that they were hoping for, and it's why he's not with the company anymore. As far as like who they could have gotten, I don't know. You could have dusted off, Coco Beware for all I care. You could have gotten 70-year-old Tito Santana. You could have gotten fucking Raven, who I'm pretty sure has
How
Alzheimer's.
old? Oh wow. God bless him. How old and in what physical condition is Amazing Red?
He's 40 something. He wrestles semi regularly. So, like, there you go. To be clear about Raven, I don't know that he does. That is a flippant comment I made because the last time we saw him on TNA television, he was having a hard time speaking. So I don't know what the shape of Raven is. I know it's not great. Shit, here you go. Give me 60-year-old Shane Douglas. He still wrestles. He can still cut a promo.
Wait a minute. I mean, look, they just if you needed a face that also could have double comedy, can't you always dust off Shark Boy? I don't know who that legitimately is. Can't you dust him off?
Yes. Shark Boy is always looking for a payday. He's always I think he owns a pizzeria nowadays. Always looking for a payday. Bring in Shark Boy, 50 years old. Bring him in. He's more like a shark middle-aged man now. He still wrestles. I just looked it up. Still wrestles. Bring in Shark Boy. Shark Boy forever. It's wild to me that some of his most appeared at matches were with TNA. Like, what was it, 2022, he had 4 matches. Fucking wild. Love it. Bring back Shark Boy. You know that he used to be called El Piranha? Fucking fantastic. Bring him back. But like anyone would have been better than Raj Singh. Or maybe not Rohit Raju, but like anyone else. And we got nothing. Now, like, if it was just them booked for the match, cool, whatever. But you have to replace Ace Austin this match, they were in Canada, Raj Singh's hometown, and he still got a "Who are you" chant. Not the right move. Tessa did not get a good match out of Ariana Grace. Ariana Grace is, what's the clinical term? Terrible. That's what she is. She's bad at this. I've never wrestled before. No, I've never gotten in the ring and done the graps. I feel like I could do the graps better than her. Now, on one hand, not
That's
completely
unusual.
her fault. You know, she's only had 78 pro matches according to Cage Match. She's been doing this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. She's nearly 30, and she hasn't even hit 100 matches in her career. 6 years, nearly 30. What are we doing? So yeah, of course the match sucked. What are we doing here?
You know that comes off as, to me, that comes off as a new level of suck. Because for all the years I've known you and that we've been talking wrestling, you've never used yourself as a measurement.
That's how bad we've gotten.
Just talk about. Yeah, yeah. That's you never, like in all the years we said this, you never like. You know what? I think I can do it.
Listen, I
So
don't know if
yeah,
my
that's
body could
that's
hold
that's
up in
good.
that. Right? I don't know if my body could hold up in that.
Yeah,
I think my
just
body,
just hitting the ropes is correct is insane.
right?
But
I think I could
yeah,
last eight
she works.
minutes and put on a better match than Ariana. That was hard to watch. That was hard to watch.
Yeah, she just works better in that role she was in with the sass and all that. She works better with the sass and the sass,
Yeah,
not in the ring. Beautiful girl, lovely, all that good stuff. But NFP saw the same thing with Rock's daughter and was like, yeah, we just gonna put you in a managerial role, um, and do it like that. But how many times are you gonna get to do that father daughter thing with the two of them? So they knocked that out. Tessa's still one of the most hated individuals, as is understood. But yeah, sometimes even somebody like Tessa just can't get it out of somebody. And you say she got 7, 8 matches to her name. That's how many behind Jade?
I'm not sure.
Do we know? But yeah. So God bless her, man. But yeah, it was only so many expectations. I think the promo for that match ended up being better in that match. And shout out to Santino. But yeah, that was and yeah, I like you said, like Alicia Fox. But the only move she's ever really kind of thing she's been known for in the ring is that she hits a beautiful northern lights because of her flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's just kind of capped off. So um, hopefully they do this thing where they kind of just ease Robert Stone on out. They got this thing where he's like an authority to that's slightly over Santino's authority that's under the actual authority. They need to they need to cut that back.
Yeah. Again, like a lot of this the NXT TNA partnership is just not fun to watch. It's rough. Masha defeated Victoria Crawford, the former Alicia Fox, in a pretty bad match. You know, she's not someone who was ever great, and I feel like now, you know, I don't think she's wrestling that often either since she left WWE. And you can tell she's put in the
I don't
work.
know how active she's been over the engine over the past how.
Well, that's about that's what I'm looking up
Yeah,
right now. Um, She has not been that active. She's been wrestling more often in the last 2 years, but she's only wrestled 13 times since she got let go in 2022. And even in so here's the thing: since 2019, even more so, since 2018, well, since 2019, since the end of 2018, from 2019 to now, she has wrestled 27 matches. She's wrestled 27 matches in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. That's not great. You have to keep doing this. Like the minute you stop doing this regularly, you lose a lot. You lose a lot of the emphasis, a lot of the timing, a lot of the in ring um,
Yeah,
stamina that you need.
yeah,
She does not look good in the ring. She looks good, she's not in the ring. And I feel like when you're trying to elevate Masha Slamovich to a new level, putting her against people who aren't that talented and really, and listen again, loved Alicia Fox. She was never that talented. And now
no.
you're putting her in title matches against Masha Slamovich, the heir apparent to Jordan Grace. What are we doing here? Who thought this was a good idea?
It's, it's weird too because she's suffering from the same thing Grace was, but with actual lesser talent, which is saying a lot, but ultimately speaks to your point of exactly where the roster is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because essentially this whole thing with the partnership, for the most part, outside of Trick and maybe a couple other names, we're getting the talent that they really don't really care to use on NXT
Yeah,
like that.
we're
Like,
we're not getting Julia.
um,
We're not getting
no,
Vakur. We're not getting Roxanne.
yeah,
We're getting Beatrice B Bomber. We're getting LFG
exactly,
rejects.
yeah.
We're getting the talent that is about to
It's
get cut next year.
it's like it's weird. Like I'd almost, and I know you probably might shoot this idea down, but I'm just looking at it for the just because they kept on this like Cord. They kept sending Core Jade after Martha. And God bless Martha. She does this thing where she really sells like, oh my God, this girl dumped me and now she's beating the piss out of me. They ran that into the ground with Core Jade. That was never believable for me. Um, but maybe if they did something like a Nikita Lyons who might step up and like start attacking her from behind, at least there's a size differential, even though we know it's like leaps and bounds difference in the ring. But even that, 'cause they need to do something like none of these girls, we know how vicious Mafia is. She's actually toned down in this ring to a degree because we know how busy she can get. These girls can't really get on that level. At least maybe with somebody like Nikita, she could be housed a little bit. Because Martha, like she gives these girls a lot, and we sitting there like, man, you wouldn't run circles around Rosemary when she first came back and had her weight on. I don't know what to say.
Maybe here's the thing that I'll say about that. I've watched a lot of Nikita Lyons, both when she was with
Wow.
WoW and now at the WWE. And I'll say this, right? I'll say this definitively. The next great Nikita Lyons match I see will be the first. I don't think she's talented. I don't think WoW lost anything with her when she left.
Yeah, yeah,
But I think what you should do is find women who are willing to work Masha's style, bring them in, let Masha
yeah.
go. Not what they're doing. That being said, let's finish this out. The Nemeths defeated Matt Hardy and Leon Slater in, I think, my favorite match of the night. Leon Slater's so talented. I need him to have more of a personality than what he has, but he's also like 20 or 21 years old. He has time to develop that. He's such a talent. Then you have Hendry and Elijah defeating Trick Williams and Frankie Kazarian. Um, I you've been spending 4 or 5 months building up Elijah and Joe Hendry as an eventual world championship match. Now all of a sudden, at Against All Odds coming up here, was it Friday night or something like that? Next Friday, the winner of Trick versus Santana will face Elijah for the world title at Against All Odds. Why? Why? I have no words. While Joe Hendry was getting pimped around by Papa H, we have another show to cover that I actually enjoyed more than I thought I would. It was the Border Brawl show. It wasn't great. Again, I'm not saying that any of these should be seen as you know match the year stuff, right, or show of the year. I'm not saying that these aren't show of the years.
Yeah, yeah. Real quick, because I didn't even know about this until I was looking at it off your feed. Would you compare that to that off color show that they did where everybody like went under like a different persona?
Oh, the all wheels wrestling.
Yeah, that whole deal when everybody when everybody was coming out as like this different type of thing. I think when Mickey was still there and all that whole jazz.
Oh, you're talking about the Impact preventional wrestling, whatever, where Josh Alexander was like Tim Burr.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, this was a TNA event done exclusively for a new streaming service called Zonify, and it was just wrestlers wrestling with no real storyline. It felt more like a super indie from like 2011, like AWE Night of Legends that had like Kevin Nash and DDP versus Midnight Express. Like it felt like that kind of show. Sammy Callahan defeated a guy named William Trudeau, but that's not really his name. He goes by what the fuck is it? Bill Collier. They had him named William Trudeau because of the former Canadian Prime Minister. Um, Rosemary as Courtney Rush defeated Victoria Crawford. The Systems, JDC and Moose defeated two guys that I hope TNA brings in Shannon Decker and Jesse Bieber, specifically Shannon Decker. I think he was fantastic. And somehow, the longest match of the night, Tommy Dreamer defeated Champagne Singh in a hardcore match. That was as far from hardcore as could be. It was fine. Dreamer's knees are so shot, I thought it was Derringer in the 1920s after he got mowed down, right? Or am I confusing him with Bonnie and Clyde? Maybe it was Bonnie and Clyde. But still, Dreamer's knees are
yeah.
shot. Frank Kazarian defeated Cody Deaner in what will likely be Deaner's last match with TNA. Uh, it was a fun little match. He did this. This may have been my favorite match of the night, only because he did this thing where he was talking about how Kazarian wanted to make Canada the 51st state, and Deaner's like, "How about this? How would I punch you in the face 51 times?" And he actually punches him in the face 50 times, and then he loses. And then, as after the match ends, he punches Kazarian in the face one more time for 51, and it was cute. I liked it. I like dumb shit like that. The Northern Armory had a major upset win over the Systems, Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards. Uh, Vipress, filling in for a injured Tessa Blanchard, defeated Jody Threat. Vipress is starting to get a lot of traction. Um, I don't know if she's any good though, because I would say this was a bad match. I don't think they had any chemistry whatsoever, and it felt like, despite her talents, and she's been involved with a lot of GCW. She's popped up a few times with TNA. She was with OVW for a little while. She wrestled with AAA for a little bit. A bunch of matches with AEW. She's had a lot of encounters, right? And I just don't feel like she's really done anything that makes me think she's gonna be a great get. But who knows? Maybe this was just a bad night for her. Not a great match though. Eric Young defeated Matt Hardy. They did this weird angle where Eric Young or where Matt Hardy got jumped, and then they did one where Santino got jumped. I thought that would lead to something it really didn't. Eric Young defeats Matt Hardy, and then Santino defeats Nick Nemeth. Then a bunch of shenanigans happen, and then the faces Cody Deaner, Jody Threat, Matt Hardy, Santino, and Tommy Dreamer defeated the Systems, Alicia Edwards, Brian Myers, Eddie Edwards, JDC, and Moose in an impromptu main event. It was a fun little show. Allie, the former Bunny, she's back, or at least she was back for the night. She was repping Team Canada. And then Barbie Blank, the former Kelly Kelly, was repping Team America. They had some interactions. That was a lot of fun. The Mountie popped up. Who else was there? Damn, I can't remember who else was there. There was a few names there that popped up behind the scenes. Oh, they had Ed Leslie, the Brutus the Barber Beefcake. He was there randomly for some reason. Rampage Jackson was advertised, but I don't know. I may have missed him if he showed up. But like, it was a fun little show. You don't need to go out of your way to see it, but if you're bored one night, check it out.
Yeah, I
It might be
appreciate the
fun.
fact that even with a depleted, yeah, I appreciate TNA for the fact that even with like what we view as a depleted roster, they can they'll pull out, real solid shows. Feel like they've been doing that all year, with their main and then their specials to be able to do something offshoot like that to go along with all the other stuff that we just kind of mentioned with the thing when they did the off color personalities and stuff like that. Um, it's one of the things that still keeps them in the conversation for being unique. So yeah, I'm glad they was able to kind of get that off, and that's also another viewership expansion, like you said, with that particular station that you said they were promoting. So yeah,
Yeah, Zonify. I don't know if we're gonna. Zonify has a lot of TNA content on it right now. I don't know if that's going to be a thing that we see going forward. It looks like Rampage was not on the show, even though he was advertised. At least advertised on the one. Jacques Rougeau though, great. And apparently I was correct, even though I had not seen this personal bit. Um, the personal concierge, the former Iceman, uh, mocked America and then announced that Justin Trudeau's nephew, William Trudeau, was going to be taking on Sammy Callahan. So that was cute. I would say check it out. Yeah, yeah, not bad. Moving on though, we do have to talk about the fact that Ace Austin is no longer with the company. So this is a big loss, Mark. I'm not happy about it. I don't know anyone who should be. I long believed that Ace Austin had main event potential, and to see him gone is a huge blow. And one that just it feels like it keeps happening. Gresham, Alexander, Speedball, Jordan, Hammerstone, Ace Austin. Like those are top tier talents. You can debate me all you
start
want
five.
on like where they should land, main eventer, upper mid card, mid card. Those are all those dudes are world champions. All of them could be world champions, and you let them all walk. What are you doing? And to do it in the span of 6 months,
Yeah,
I've never seen a talent exodus like this before. It's one thing to lose like 10 or 15 guys, right? Maybe it's not the worst thing in the world, but like to lose 6 or 7 and they're all you're like your top 6 and 7 guys all gone.
yeah.
It's wild to
To
me,
the point
Marcus.
where that clothing company that they paired with that was Blacksmith,
Mm-hmm.
even they I think either retweeted or commented on the Ace Austin part like, what the freak are y'all doing?
My only hope is that they're still negotiating with Ace, and that they'll bring him back for Slammiversary. Because I don't know how you let him walk. He is a homegrown talent. He's like 27, I think. Prime of his career. He's developed like he's getting bigger. He's wrestling better. His promos are getting better. And you just let like you really could have had Hendry, Santana, Austin. Maybe you elevate a fourth dude and had a great main event scene of pure talent wrestling guys. And instead, out the door. I don't get it. But maybe we'll get Javion and Edwards. Maybe we'll get Molly. What's her face? I know we'll get the sixth person to hold the NXT North American Championship this month. Ace Austin's gone though. We should listen to Crazy when he said that they're cutting the budget. Should have listened. Right. They're supplementing the roster with NXT. Know that. Seeing it. Damn. They don't got to do us this badly. They don't got to do us this badly. Marcus, do you have hopes for the TNA roster at this point, as it stands right now, without any additions?
I do, but that's just more of my optimistic personality, and we've seen them through so many storms. This is a unique one that they have chosen to be in. Like you said, it's crazy going back and like you said, that's a if they were like doing like invasion angles or something, just like an NXT versus TNA thing, the 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 five names that you release would be the 2025 version of TNA Frontline. And the fact that they, lost those bigger names and that span of time is insane. And I don't think they've replaced any of those guys. Um, and thank God they had Monster for Jordan, and I think Santana is, Josh literally passed the torch to Santana. Um, and Monster's absolute stud, and Santana's proven himself to be stud as well. Probably he's actually had better booking than Hendrick,
Mm-hmm.
which is insane. But um, yeah, there's still some hope for these because the TNA's ability over its existence to do that Kurt Angle like milliseconds before the ref puts his hand down for three, rolling the shoulder up at the last minute is has truly become the company's like thing. But it's tricky because they're allowing it's like watching Space Jam again and like the TNA's thinking they're working with the like these little tweeps, but they're rid of the Bond stars and they think they can kind of hang with them because they're drinking water. They think it's special stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and we know it's just water, and it's like, oh, this ain't gonna finish well. And they don't have they don't have a Jordan. I, you know, going off what you was just listing off, I don't know if they got a bug right now. The way they set it up, so it's like you're kind of screwing yourself. So it's hesitant optimism is the best way I could describe what I'm in with right now. But every time you tweet something out, it's like, oh God, I can't even debate it. To the point where some of their most faithful fan pages was going like, what? It's like,
We'll see how things shake out. You know,
yeah,
wrestling and momentum in wrestling changes almost on a dime. We'll see if things get better for us as TNA fans. Marcus, any final thoughts on this week's show?
uh, just that I hope we don't feel like that we don't really have a choice with WWE's excess the personality. That weekend was just stacked with wrestling to the point where I got to the middle of the week and I was still catching up on stuff. Uh, so hopefully, we don't have a stacked weekend like that for a minute. But it's the summer; everything's gonna be hold out a little bit. Getting people outside and whatnot. So, um, guess I just gotta brace myself. I mean, we talk about watching more wrestling all the time, and that's the platter's full at this point. So, guess I just gotta stay on my toes. But other than that, that's it.
All right, so let's wrap it up. You can find us on the website at realnerdcorp.com, realnerdcorp.com. We're also on Twitter at nerdcorp. Marcus, you're on Twitter, or X, at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
Yes, that's me. Hopefully the app can get better now that the idiot runner that has one less job.
Right? Then we also have him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, which you can also find on the app or on the website, which I use, at True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. You can find The True Penny Show on Twitter, X, whatever. They upload all their shows, or at least the links to their shows on their Twitter account. So go there, find them, listen to them. They're great. You can find me on at Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo at ChadSPHOTOHUT. We'll be back next Tuesday, maybe. Will we be back next Tuesday? I think we will. For another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. He's Marcus Green. I'm Chad Portal. Thanks again for tuning in, checking us out, giving us a chance, remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. Marcus, home.